Hi, I'm Charles Brownstein from northerntransmissions.com. Thanks as always for checking out Records in My Life. This episode features Johan Wohlert from Mew. Let's hear what he likes.
Hi, my name is Johan, and I play in a band called Mew, and you're watching northerntransmissions.com. The first one out of the bunch is my Bloody Valentine and their Loveless record, which was a record that meant a lot, not only to me, but to Mew as a whole. I think I discovered it, a couple of years after it had been released, so maybe around, 95 or something like that, and it kind of changed my, it was one of those records that had me going from listening to, Pet Shop Boys and Eurythmics, both fantastic bands, which I still love today, but this kind of was one of the records that sort of opened the gates to alternative music for me and for Mew. My Bloody Valentine played a huge part. Dinosaur Jr. and Pixies and bands like that were kind of the new. I guess it was kind of our, punk rock revolution. That it's kind of taught us that we could be a band ourselves. We didn't have to be flashy players to actually make a cool noise. And, we used to be managed by Alan McGee, who ran and owned Creation Records. So he could tell us some stories about the creation of this one, because it almost bankrupted him. So he had kind of a mixed emotion about the record, but nonetheless, and thank God he let Kevin Shields sort of do his thing. And this is, it's a lot of people has this on their favorite list. I think if they're into sort of alternative music, and it's just there's a reason why. It's just it doesn't sound like anything else. Moving on. So this is actually a live record, and it wouldn't be my first pick. It's by Genesis, back in their prime, I would say, fronted by Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins behind the drums. Holy crap! I don't know if I can swear or if that is even swearing, but what a band, and what a, I had a phase, and we all did in Mew, listening to progressive bands, and Genesis were by far our favorite because of their ability to keep the tunes in there, even though it was pretty advanced stuff. When we started out, when we did our Glass Handy Kites record, this was kind of what we were listening to a lot of the time, and obviously they were 100 times more flashy players than we will ever be, but it was still kind of inspiring to sort of look at their live shows and to look at, listen to the recordings. And I really loved Mike Rutherford's bass tone on these Genesis. So a bit like Chris Squire, honky and kind of gritty and, just really with attitude. And that's something that I really tried to incorporate and have been doing ever since into the Mew sound, is that the bass is not just down there doing the bass stuff. It's kind of like, it's aggressive. And that kind of seems to counterbalance the very sort of the sweet elements that we have to our sound, and the very sort of angelic thing, that there's a little bit of balls down there.
Right.
Some people will say, what the hell, how can you go from Genesis Live to Abba's Arrival record? But to me, and I think to a lot of other songwriters, Abba is it's pretty awe-inspiring songwriting. It's just so well made. It's I'm friends with a couple of Swedish musicians who grew up like in the 70s and obviously experienced the whole Abba thing going on in Sweden, and they said to me, when Abba came out, the Swedish music scene was all about, like politically tinged folk stuff, and they came out and they were on a different level, totally. The level of songwriting craft, the professionalism, the sound, everything was just like, you came from here and they just took it like 5 leagues up, And so a lot of people really hated them for that, because they were that good. They were just so much better than everybody else. And and I just Sweden has such a rich tradition ever since these guys of creating super skilled pop songwriters. I mean, look at your chart here. It's probably written by Swedes, 9/10 of it. And it's I don't know which song I would pick if I had to pick a favorite Abba song. There's so many good ones, but I think I put the Beatles first in terms of like pure pop sensibility,
Right.
without being stupid pop, but like good pop, and I would put Abba second. Right.
Right, another, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a bit funny because people are usually quite surprised that my taste is so universal, if you will. That I'm not. I mean, I like certain bands that not that many people like, but I also like classics, and I think there's a good reason why they are classics. And Fleetwood Mac Rumours is definitely one of them. It's probably the record I spin the most at home. I have an old one on vinyl. It gets a fair bit of use. It's one of those records where there's not really a bad song on it. I mean, my favorite song of the record is The Chain, and I think one of the reasons why it's my favorite is that bass line in the end. It's so Pixies, and I kind of grew up with the Pixies,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, I don't know, but it's just so Pixies to me. That whole outro, it sounds like the Pixies. I mean, and
Maybe
it's
where you
just,
left it.
yeah, it could. It's definitely. It's got that sort of like.
Sorry, Kim. I shouldn't say he. Kim.
Yeah.
If she
yeah,
did.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely one of the best all-time bass lines. And again, it's just like it's just good song upon good song upon good song. And I don't know, maybe you could say that about quite a lot of records, but it just has this. I don't know. There's just something magical about it. Maybe it's because you've heard so much about it and read so much about it that it's sort of taken on this mythical kind of status, but it's just a classic pop record. Last but not least,
Yeah,
I mean, I know we're not in America, but Bruce's own, Born in the USA. He's also someone that I discovered quite late. I had my whole sort of alternative indie rock phase, and I think this sort of started for me around 10 years ago or something like that, with the Elton Johns, with the Fleetwood Macs, like the really, really great songwriters of our time. It was probably, the Born in the USA song that spoke to me first, because I was really into like just AC/DC and stuff, like really primal stuff, because we'd been doing all this proggy stuff in Mew, and I took a break from that, and I just needed to find something that was really basic and really sort of primal, something where it's just like that goes straight to the heart and it has no thought to it other than just this is what you need to feel. And obviously I knew the song from when I was a kid, heard it on the radio, or my dad would play it or whatever. It was huge in the 80s, and hearing it again, I was just, I almost get goosebumps just thinking about it, because it seems like it's a live recording. It seems like, he has a 1, 2, 3, 4 yell at the end, and there's this thing about his melody and the hooky keyboard line that clashes. If you sort of analyze it, they do like what you call a small second, I think it's called in Danish anyway, like musically speaking, where the keyboard will play it half a note higher than he actually sings. So there's actually a point in there where it's like really incorrect, where the whole thing goes like, but that's what makes it great. And so there's just, it's just so, again, it seems so honest, and it seems so primal, and it seems so necessary. It was like that guy freaking meant it, and I think that's why it speaks to the masses. And it's kind of, again, I think it's a little bit like this record in a way that it doesn't really have any bad songs on it. It's like a lot of hits, but good hits, I mean, I'm on Fire, Dancing in the Dark. You know, it's just like.
Yeah, there were a lot of hits on this record.
Yeah,
I mean, this too. Don't forget too. This was part of like the whole MTV because Glory Days was a huge video. I mean, it was like constantly on.
Yeah,
and,
Like
you said, I'm on Fire. And
yeah, impressive artist. One of the greats.
Wow, they're Abba, right?
Yeah, they're Abba. What can you say?
Yeah. And you spell it the same way backwards as forwards. Isn't that incredible too? I mean,
the Swedes, man, they got to figure it all out. Yeah.